I'm Angela Atkinson. I'm very often known as Born Again Swindonian because that's the name of my Swindon-centric blog that I own. I'm also a published author. I'm chair of Swindon Civic Voice. I wear a few hats. And I run a small business, which really is the blog. I mean, I do proofreading and proof editing, and it all overlaps and symbiotic, so I'm pushing it all through Born Again Swindonian. So that is me.
What else are you involved in because of your love of Swindon?
Well, yes, as I mentioned in the introduction, I am chair of Swindon Civic Voice. Swindon Civic Voice is a charity. We're part of the National Civic Voice organisation, and we're involved with heritage, saving heritage, planning, sometimes challenging planning decisions where necessary, but also trying to be positive. I don't know if you're aware, but last year the Railway Village Conservation Area was voted England's favourite conservation area in a competition run by the National Civic Voice people, and that was us. That was Swindon Civic Voice. We were behind that, and that win played a large part in the Railway Village. Not the only factor, but a part of it, being awarded Heritage Action Zone status from Historic England, which is a big coup for Swindon. There are not many of these around. There are only 2 or 3 in the southwest. So the whole of the Railway Village Conservation Area, which is sort of just behind us, isn't it, is now this Heritage Action Zone building. Heritage Action Zone. So it's a 5-year project, lots of investment. So it's really very exciting. So Swindon Civic Voice are involved in that. And we are desperate for members. We need new members. There's lots to be done. I mean, we've achieved a lot in the last few years. But there's much more to be done. I mean, so now the Railway Village has got the Heritage Action Zone, we can sort of look at other things. And one of the things that we'd like to look at is the town centre. But the cold hard truth is we need membership and we need help. So if anybody is interested in joining Swindon Civic Voice, speak to me.
Thank you.
How did the opportunity come to write the books?
Well, that's interesting as well, because I have to say I wasn't particularly planning this. Really, it was through Born Again Swindonian. In fact, that's absolutely what it was. A commission. They are published by Amberley, which is a publishing house in Stroud. And the chap who is one of their commissioning editors, he was clearly doing a Google search on Swindon, like looking for Swindon stuff, and he found Born Again Swindonian. And because Born Again Swindonian is big, a lot of things that you might look for to do with Swindon, you'd find my blog, and you'd find images that are on my blog. And so he got in touch with me, and he said, I work for this publishing house in Stroud, and we have a series of books called Secret XXX, so this Secret Kings and Port Thames is, secret wherever. Would I be interested in writing Secret Swindon? So that's how it happened.
Great.
How long did it take for you to find research for your books?
This one, Secret Swindon, possibly, not terrible, about 6 months, I think. And the Swindon and 50 buildings, a little bit less, because some of it I would have had on my blog already, but, actually repurpose it for the book. So, I would say about 6 months, roughly, each one, broadly speaking, yeah.
How long did it take to write the books?
Same thing. I mean, the research and writing, I did it sort of in pieces. The local studies, I spent a lot of time in local studies in Swindon Library. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but on the top floor of Central Library, there's this local studies section. And they've got a lot of material in there. I mean, everything that anybody has ever written about Swindon or by Swindonians, anything that's ever been written by Swindonians, it's all in there. So obviously every, copy of the Evening Advertiser, Swindon Advertiser that's ever been, some microfiche. So that is a brilliant resource. I spent a lot of time in there. And also in the Wiltshire Swindon History Centre in Chippenham. So basically, if local studies haven't got it, the chances are, that the Wiltshire Swindon History Centre in Chippenham have got it. So so I would do it in pieces, I'd think, right, I need to research this, find that, write about that, and then move on to the next bit, particularly with the buildings.
What are your favourite bits in the books?
Oh, interesting. So in this one, in Swindon and 50 buildings, apart from the obvious things of the Railway Village, and the David Murray John Tower, which I think is amazing. I really love the David Murray John Tower. Aside from that, my favourite building would have to be, unfortunately it's now closed, the pub in Eldeed called the Crumpled Horn, and it's based on, the nursery rhyme, the house that Jack built, so it's this very funky shape inside it. I went with a friend drove me over there to get some photographs of it for the book, and we obviously did it just in time, so we had a drink there and saw it all, and then it closed soon after. So that one, definitely that. Those buildings. In this one, that's difficult. See, I've covered a lot of stuff, like a bit of history, and then, but I think probably the last chapter, which is about Swindon's cultural past, but also its cultural present. You know, the artists and Swindon Open Studios and the public art and that kind of thing. But it's a difficult question because all of it, really.
What advice can you give me as an author for my own books?
What subject are you writing?
It's fictional. It's just more like fantasy and sci-fi.
Oh, is it? Okay. This is a tricky question because in the I didn't plan this. It just happened to me, and I wasn't looking for a publisher and all that kind of thing. But I would say, do your research on suitable publishers. Certainly make sure you get it proofread, before you submit it to anybody. Join writing groups. But yeah, I certainly say do your research, look at suitable publishers. There must be, I'm sure, publishers that do particular genre of work, and that kind of thing. And yeah, join writers groups. I bet there are some. I bet they might talk to the library. They might know about writers groups.
Great.
Because that's good for getting, mutual support and advice and all that kind of thing, isn't it? And yeah, but before you do anything with it, whether you self-publish or what, make sure it's proofread.
Have you had any stories that you'd like to share with us about your publishing process?
Yes. But either way, whether you have a publisher like I did for these or whether you self-publish, there's pros and cons. Obviously, if you self-publish, you have the risk, really. You've got to pay to get them published and all that kind of thing, and then you've got to get them onto Amazon, and then it's will they sell. With these, these are a lot of squeeze for not much juice, but should you sell it, then obviously what you sell is yours. The proceeds are all yours. Whereas with these, I don't make much money on these at all. There are a lot of squeeze for not that much juice. Mm-hmm. But the upside of having a publisher is that they've got the risk. They've got the risk. They're printing them. If they sell, they sell. If they don't, well, it's their loss. And also they've got the relationship with the bookshops. The wholesalers, Waterstones and the library in Swindon, and places like that. So there's pros and cons, and I can't be honest and say this has been a completely joyful process. Don't get me wrong, overall, of course, it's marvellous, because, there's another one as well. I've written a biography of a Swindon artist, and I've got a copy of that with me, called Ken White. So, I've got 3 publications to my name by Amberley, and they're in Waterstones, and they're in the library, and obviously that's a fantastic thing. I would say my main piece of advice is don't do it thinking you're going to make a lot of money. Either way, whether you have a publisher or whether you self-publish, do it for the love.
Do you have future plans for books?
I do, actually. I can't keep doing this forever, but I'm working on one at the moment, which is actually close to, I'd say completion, a first draft of it at least. And it's a guidebook of Swindon, but not sort of a straight down the line guidebook. It's slightly more off the wall things, like urban exploration. I don't drive, so I walk a lot. So it's about urban exploration and walks and green spaces and that sort of thing. And it's going to have lots of lovely illustrated maps in. So because I've written all these different trails, I've worked out all these sort of activities of things that you can do for little or no money. So it's not about Steam and Lydiard and all of those things, as wonderful as they are, but they're on Visit Swindon and, they are elsewhere. So I'm looking for the more, unusual stuff. And this book is about trying to get people to look for what a friend of mine called in a poem, the glitter in the concrete. You know, the things that may not necessarily be beautiful but are still interesting. You know, if you only open your eyes and your heart and your mind, really. It's about that. And yes, and it's going to have all these beautiful illustrated maps in by a Swindon artist called Marilyn True. So, and some photographs as well. So as well as being activities, it's going to be nice to look at as well. And that might be it, maybe, because, you know, I need to focus on some stuff with the blog and on my business and things like that. I don't know, we'll see. No, that's not true. And I've told myself and Roger Ogle, we may do similar to this, but, you know, ourselves, a self-published thing maybe. West Swindon in 20 buildings, so like with the history of West Swindon. But whereas this is all this had to be buildings that are still standing, we might do a few that are with us no more. You know, so 15 existing buildings and 5 that are with us no more. So that's sort of on the back burner. I've told Roger to look at a history of West Swindon for it. Okay, well, thank you very much.